What's up, Windwalkers, and welcome to my Mythic Cauldron of Carnage guide. Now right away, it's worth mentioning that similarly to Vexy, this boss is almost identical to its heroic counterpart, with some damage numbers ramped up. There is a mythic mechanic to this fight where you do have to kick some toys into each other, but this will not be a Windwalker's job, as a ranged character or two should have sole responsibility for this. It is worth mentioning, however, that when the two toys do collide, you will take damage, so just be aware of this. Before we get into gear and talents, let's take a look at the log. At the time of recording, this was the rank 1 Windwalker Cauldron log, and you can see where all of my damage comes from. Fists of Fury, Spinning Crane Kick, Blackout Kick, and the Gale Force passive from Strike of the Windlord. Starting off with gear, this is the setup that I ran. Now, I went for a double one-hander build for this boss, as to me, this is a single target fight. You can argue that the bosses meet in the middle throughout the fight, but for the majority of the encounter, you're hitting one target. Now, it's also worth bringing up here that although I went for double one-handers for this fight, if you have access to a Mythic Track two-hander, there is a good chance that it will sim better than two lower item level one-handers in single target. So, just because I'm running one-handers in this video, the next time I take on Cauldron, I'll be whacking out my 678 two-hander. Finally, moving on to talents, this is the setup that I ran. Now, as it was dual wielding, I decided to go for dual threat, transfer the power, and Fury of Zwan, straight down the middle. Now, there is a good argument for actually going Last Emperor's Capacitor and Power of the Thunder King here, but after simming my character single target before taking on the Cauldron, this came out to be the best for me. If I did go for the Lightning build, I would have dropped Transfer the Power and Fury of Zwan for my one-hander build. But if I was using a two-hander for this fight, I would have instead dropped Dual Threat and Fury of Zwan. Okay, I think I've preambled for quite long enough. Let's walk through the boss fight, shall we? So, kicking things off, the raid will be split into two groups. Half of you will start on Florendo, the dinosaur, and the other half on Torque, the monkey. I was assigned to Torque first, which means I'll do Torque, Florendo, Torque, Florendo. You switch bosses after every intermission. So, the Torque mechanics are quite simple. You cannot move much. Basically, every time you move on this boss, you gain a little stack of a charge. You'll see the bar as I'm moving here, the blue bar that ramps up to 100. If you ever reach 100, you will be stunned for about 5 seconds, and that means you'll probably die to a mechanic that comes in straight afterwards. As well as this with Torque, there are two major mechanics. These lightning circles on the floor that follow players that you have to move out of, and as well as this, some volatile electric dudes spawn, and you just can't get hit by them. You'll see that I get a Ring of Peace notification here, and this is because I've set it up in my timeline reminders to basically allow myself to know when the volatile images are coming in, and to Ring of Peace them. As the spawns were pretty poor, I decided not to Ring of Peace here, as there was a high likelihood I would have knocked them into other players. In terms of damage and DPS here, I do my single target opener, and I pop my second Storm Earth and Fire on full as well to get full advantage of the Bloodlust. So what makes Torque a little bit easier is actually you get less mechanics on this compared to the dinosaur side. For Torque, you'll get 2 sets of those circles that follow you, and you'll get 1 set of volatile images. Once both those are done, you're pretty much free to do whatever you want. So, the intermission starts, and what I do here is I try to pop Fortifying Brew every single time, as this is a really good defensive that lasts about the entire intermission. You want to try stand in the middle of these two bosses to get as much damage on both of them during this. However, there is a lot of dodging that goes on here, so sometimes it is safer to just stay on one side rather than the other and live the intermission. You'll notice that I assign myself to hold cooldowns here. My cooldowns are about to come up, however, I do not pop them the moment they're up, because what will happen is the two bosses will jump away from each other. If I pop cooldowns instantly, I'll lose a lot of uptime, so what I do instead is I wait till the dinosaur jumps away, get to the dinosaur, pop cooldowns, and get as much out of them as possible. I do this for every intermission set. I never pop my major cooldowns in the intermission. I wait until we're back into phase 1. So, the dinosaur is a little bit different on Mythic. There are still bombs that you have to stand in as a group and soak. However, the laser now has 3 lines. You need to aim this as far away as possible from the group, but not towards the monkey side, otherwise you're going to one-shot half of the raid. You can see here that we actually stacked this bomb pretty poorly. You want to kind of stack it where the laser is going off now. It drops on a random player. So the idea is that after every circle spread that you have, you want to try and move as a group into the corner of the room and bait the bomb. Unfortunately, we do a little bit of a poor bait here, but we manage and it's not the end of the world. As long as you're not aiming the triple laser on the monkey group and you're all getting into the bomb for the explosion, you're good to go. Touch of Karma is a really good defensive for this, as you'll basically eat the entire defensive up and gain damage on the boss. So, once again, I notify myself to pop Fortifying Brew. I'm a little bit of an idiot though and don't do it, but as you can see, even without Fortifying Brew, as long as you dodge all the mechanics, you don't actually take an insane amount of damage. It's just the best place to actually pop this defensive. Once again, you can see that my major cooldowns are coming up, but I'm actually holding them until we get back to the monkey side. So, second time on the monkey side, and you can see the floor is a little bit messy. Wherever the voltaic images explode at the end of their lifespan, they drop this pool on the floor. So the idea is to try and knock them out as far as possible. It's kind of why I have my Ring of Peace assigned, and you'll see me use it here. Although, at the same time, I think a Druid knocks them back. So actually, the Ring of Peace doesn't hit anything, but you kind of get the idea of what I was going for here. You don't want the ads to be hitting you, but you want them to be out as far as possible. We just kind of mismanaged our CC there. So, although the floor is now full to the brim with electric fields that silence you, you still need uptime on the boss. So you don't want to be rolling out into the middle of Africa. You basically want to try run around the boss with the rest of your team and keep uptime whilst dodging as well. If you get hit by one of these, you probably won't die. You get hit by two of them, you probably will. So once again, we've done both of our sets, and now we're going back into the intermission again. You can see Fortifying Brew. I've been notified to do this again. Brew. So this time I actually do. Good Windwalker monk, you're learning. Once again, I'm trying to hit both bosses as possible, but you can see how messy it gets in the middle when every other melee DPS is trying to do the same. Dodging is the name of the game here. I do get hit by a lava wave here. Lava waves hit a lot harder than the electric circles, so I pop a health pot and everything's alright. Once the dinosaur jumps back in, I pop cooldowns again, and you can see how messy this side of the room is now. There isn't much space to actually bait bombs. So, what do? We try to tuck them in as far as possible. You have to work with the floor that you've been given, and you can't be putting them on the other side, otherwise you're going to screw up the rest of the fight. Baiting bombs is super crucial here. So once again we spread. Not a bad time to use diffuse magic if you had it, as a lot of melee DPS will be stacked on each other at the start. And now we bait the bombs again. This bomb isn't the end of the world, we're just trying to position it now because we know the bosses are almost defeated. So the idea is to make sure that we just don't hit the other side with the giant laser and the bombs aren't in the middle of the room. Once again, we get the spread mechanic, and I'm stood in a pretty decent spot for getting the bomb baited in the right space. Unfortunately, it is on the other side. I then get hit with a beam. You want to let this fully charge on you, and the moment the cast time is finished, jump out of it. There is a slight window where you can actually get out of this without getting hit. If you get hit, you are one shot, so roll here, please.
Fortifying Brew.
Once again, we Fortifying Brew for the intermission, and I actually hold cooldowns here again. Now, generally, for most players, I would say hold cooldowns. For me, because we were so close to the boss kill here, I probably should have popped my cooldowns a little bit earlier. However, there's a good chance that you'll be doing this fight for a little bit longer, so waiting for the monkey to jump back is a good idea. So, I pop cooldowns on the monkey, and within about 5 seconds, the monkey dropped. So you can see that the cooldown lining isn't great here, but it's still what I'd highly recommend, because it can go on for a bit longer, depending on your group's gear and how long the fight's going to go on for. And that's basically the boss fight. It's very similar to Heroic. It's not the craziest fight in the world, but it can get very hectic very quickly. As you can see, that all of the fire on the floor stays for the entire fight, all of the electric voltage stays for the entire fight. You've basically got to be very careful where you're stood at all times and make a plan out of movement. Generally speaking though, the Mythic mechanic, you could see that I had nothing to do with it. The hunters were completely in charge of that and did it all by themselves, and you can see the damage that you take from when the toys hit each other isn't actually that much. So having a defensive in your back pocket is great, however, you're probably not going to die when these explode unless you're on super low health at the time. Anyway, so that's my Mythic Cauldron of Carnage guide. I've been Windwalker POV, and I hope this helps you get your first boss kill.